My name is Rachel Okafor. I'm 34 years old. I'm a project manager, a single mother, and someone who spent most of her life being the person in her family who managed everything quietly and was thanked for it by being expected to manage more. I want to tell you about a summer afternoon at a community swimming pool. An afternoon I have replayed in my mind more times than I can count, not because I enjoy the memory, because it was the moment I finally understood something I had been half knowing for 30 years. And understanding it, fully and completely, was the thing that changed my life. Before I tell you what happened at the pool, I need you to understand the number that lives at the center of this story. Not a dramatic number, not a single transfer or a single moment. A number built slowly across 5 years of quiet generosity that nobody in my extended family knew about. £14,000, sent to my family in increments, for reasons that were always described as temporary, always framed as family, always assumed to be available. That number matters. Hold it. I'll come back to it. But first, let me tell you about the water. It was a Saturday in July. Hot in the way English summers occasionally manage to be. The kind of day where the sky is a clean, uncomplicated blue, and everyone goes outside because the opportunity feels temporary. We arrived at the pool just after midday. Me, my daughter Mia, my parents, and my younger sister Vanessa. Mia was 6 years old, and she was wearing a yellow swimsuit with a small frill at the bottom that she had chosen herself and was very proud of. She was excited. She had been talking about the pool for 3 days. Mia could not swim. Everyone at that pool knew Mia could not swim. The pool was divided clearly into a shallow end and a deep end. A thick rope with floats marked the boundary between them. We settled near the shallow end. Mia. We settled near the shallow end. Mia paddled. My parents sat in pool chairs a few meters back. Vanessa was in the water for a while, then out again, standing at the edge. The afternoon was relaxed and pleasant in the specific way that made me feel, briefly, that things between me and my family were getting easier. Then I realized I had left my sunscreen in my bag in the changing room. Mia needed it before she spent much longer in the sun. I told Vanessa to watch Mia at the shallow end. I said it clearly. I said, "Don't let her go near the deep end." Vanessa nodded. She was standing 2 meters from my daughter. I walked to the changing room. I found the sunscreen. I walked back. I was gone less than 4 minutes. When I came out of the changing room, I looked toward the shallow end. Mia was not there. My eyes went to Vanessa, who was still at the pool's edge, looking toward the deep end. I followed her gaze. Mia was in the deep end. She was not swimming. She was hitting the water with her arms in the panicked, disconnected way of a child who has no technique and no understanding of what her body needs to do to stay above the surface. Her head was going under and coming back up. Going under again. And I ran. I don't remember deciding to run. I was running. I entered the water without stopping. The pool was cold against my clothes, and the sound of everything around me went muffled and irrelevant. I reached Mia. I got my arm around her. I pulled her up and moved to the side of the pool and lifted her onto the edge and then climbed out beside her. She was coughing. Hard, chest-deep coughs that shook her small body. I pulled her against me. I held her and I said, "I'm here. I'm here. I've got you." She kept coughing and I held her and I waited for it to stop. When I looked up, the lifeguard was running toward us from the far end of the pool. He arrived after. After I had already reached her. After she was already out. Vanessa was standing at the pool edge, 3 feet from me. She was not frightened. That is what I remember most clearly. She was not frightened. She was watching with an expression that was already preparing its defense. She said, "She needs to learn to swim. I was right there the whole time." I looked at my parents. My father was still in his pool chair. His phone was in his hand, held slightly outward, in the position of someone who had been filming. My mother was getting up, slowly, reaching for a towel. My father said, "She's all right. Kids are tougher than you think." My mother said nothing. She walked over and held the towel out toward Mia. I sat on the edge of that pool with my daughter in my arms, ears soaking, and I looked at the three of them. I looked at my sister, who had watched a 6-year-old child go into deep water and not moved. I looked at my father, who had been filming. I looked at my mother, who had waited. They were all watching, all three of them, and none of them moved. I want to tell you who I am and where I came from before I tell you the rest. My name is Rachel Okafor. I'm 34 years old. I grew up the eldest of 2 daughters in a family that, from the outside, looked solid and warm and together. My parents are both in their early 60s. My father spent his career as a civil engineer. My mother worked in school administration for most of my life and is now semi-retired. They are educated, stable people who are well regarded in their community and who have always presented their family with pride. Inside our house, the experience was more layered than the presentation. My sister Vanessa is 4 years younger than me. She is louder than me, much more expressive, and she learned very early in her life that creating friction produced results. If she was unhappy, the household reorganized itself around her unhappiness. If she wanted something, reasons were found. If she was upset, my mother's attention went immediately and completely to managing that upset. This was not a deliberate or conscious choice by my parents, I don't think. It was simply the path of least resistance. T followed consistently across years until it became the only path anyone remembered using. I was quieter, more self-contained. I did not demand. I was praised for this regularly. My parents told me I was the easy one, the steady one, the one who didn't need managing. I heard this as a compliment for a long time. What it actually was, I understand now, was a description of my function. Easy children are easy because they have learned to make themselves so. They are not easier by nature. Large they are easier because they have absorbed the lesson that their needs create inconvenience, and so they stop presenting their needs. I finished school on my own effort. I funded my university education through a part-time job and a student loan without asking my parents for help, because I had learned early not to ask for things I wasn't sure I would receive. I built a career. I became a mother. I managed all of it, largely, on my own resources. My parents were proud of me in the specific way people are proud of things that require nothing from them. That is the family I grew up in. Not cruel, not broken, just organized in a way that placed me consistently at the edges of its warmth while centering itself around my sister. And what happened at the pool was not a sudden lapse in judgment by 3 people who usually did better. It was the outcome of a family system that had always treated my well-being, and by extension my daughter's well-being, as secondary. The pool was just the day I could no longer pretend I hadn't noticed. I want to tell you about 3 moments from my life before I tell you about the money and the dinner, because these moments are the history of the pool. They are the chapters that came before the one everyone will remember. I was 15 when I was selected to represent my school at a regional science competition. I was genuinely proud. I told my parents at dinner. I remember the table, the smell of whatever my mother had cooked, the specific hope I carried into that announcement. My mother said, "That's good." She said it the way you say something before moving to the next thing. Then she turned to Vanessa and asked about the school play she had auditioned for. The competition was the following week. I went alone on the school bus with 2 other students and a teacher. I placed second in my category out of 47 competitors. And I was 15, and I had placed second at a regional level, and I was proud and I wanted to tell someone. There was a payphone at the school building where the competition was held. I called home. My mother answered. I told her I placed second. She said, "Well done. Did Vanessa call you? She got the lead in the play." The conversation lasted 2 more minutes and was almost entirely about Vanessa's role. I said goodbye. I put the phone down. I stood in the corridor of that building for a moment before going back to find my teacher. 7 years later, I graduated from university with honors. My father made a toast at the graduation dinner. He spoke about both of us, in the way that sounds inclusive but isn't when you measure the time given. He spoke about Vanessa's upcoming gap year, her plans, her adventures, how exciting it would be for her. He mentioned my degree in one sentence. I had paid for that degree myself, every credit of it. I held my glass and smiled and said thank you when people looked at me, and I stored that evening away in the particular internal filing system I'd been building since the payphone at 15. When Mia was born, my parents visited once in the first 2 weeks. Once. Vanessa posted on social media about being an aunt and received 47 comments of congratulations, on which she read aloud to me on the phone while I was 7 days postpartum and hadn't slept properly since before the birth. 6 months later, when I asked my mother if she could help with childcare for 1 week during a difficult period, she said she was already helping Vanessa with something that week. I arranged the childcare myself. I paid for it. I said it was fine. Have you ever been the person in your family whose needs were always the ones that could wait? If that sentence landed somewhere real in you, please leave a comment. I think more people are living inside this dynamic than anyone speaks about openly. By the time I was in my early 30s, I had built a life. A real one. I was a project manager at a mid-sized consultancy, managing complex timelines and client relationships, and the particular skill of keeping multiple things moving simultaneously without losing track of any of them. I was raising Mia alone, or near enough. Her father and I separated when she was 18 months old. He contributed to her costs inconsistently, in amounts that helped at the margins but did not change the fundamental math of what I was managing. I paid the rent. I paid the childminder. I covered her medical appointments and her school supplies and her yellow swimsuit and everything else that makes up a child's life. I managed all of this, and I was fine. I was always fine. Finesse was my most practiced skill. And across 5 years of being fine, I also supported my family financially. Not because I was asked directly in the way a request is made. It didn't work like that in my family. It worked through the language of communicated need. A sigh on the phone, a mentioned difficulty, a problem described with the expectation built invisibly into the description that I would respond. Vanessa's car needed significant repairs one spring and the family was short that month. My mother mentioned it on a Sunday call, the sigh audible beneath the words. I transferred the money. £800. The following year, my father was setting up a home office for some consulting work he was doing after retirement, and the equipment costs were more than he had budgeted. I covered the gap. £1,150. The year after that, Vanessa wanted to complete a professional qualification, and the course fees were difficult for her to manage. My mother mentioned it twice across 3 phone calls before I offered. Vanessa never asked me directly. She never had to. The system worked without her having to ask. There were smaller amounts, too, scattered across the years. A household bill described as higher than expected. A car tax gap that arrived at a bad month. I helped each time. I estimated the total once, sitting at my kitchen table with a cup of tea that went cold, going through my bank transfers year by year. £14,000 across 5 years, while raising a child alone on one income in a city where nothing was cheap. I did not give this resentfully at first. I want to be honest about that. I gave it because I believed, for a long time, that giving was how I belonged to a family in which I had always felt slightly outside the circle of warmth. If I could not get in through simply being present, perhaps I could get in through being useful. That is not a cynical calculation. And it is the logic of a person who learned early that her value was functional. What I received in return was inconsistency. Babysitting offers that were canceled more often than they were kept. Phone calls that were mostly about Vanessa. The assumption that I was fine. I was always fine. Everyone said so. Then came the period, about 4 months before the pool, when I was going through a financially difficult stretch. A contract at work had ended later than expected, and a new one hadn't started yet, and the months in between were tight in a way that required careful management. I couldn't send money that month when my mother mentioned something needed. I said I was sorry, that things were tight. She said she understood, but the warmth in her voice shifted. Barely, just enough to notice. The next few phone calls were cooler, not cold. Just the particular temperature that comes when someone has recalibrated what you are to them. I said yes to the pool trip partly because I wanted to warm things back up. I wanted to feel like a daughter arriving at a family outing, not like a resource that had recently been unavailable. I told myself it would be a good afternoon. Mia was excited and the weather was perfect, and I wanted to be present and glad. I was glad. Right up until the moment I wasn't. Let me tell you the full afternoon now, because there are things that happened before the changing room that matter. We arrived just after noon, and the car park was already full with the particular busy energy of a community pool on a rare hot Saturday. The air smelled of chlorine from the entrance, and Mia was practically vibrating with excitement beside me, pulling slightly ahead with her swimming bag bouncing against her hip. The building was loud inside, children's voices bouncing off the wet tiles, the sound of water, the periodic whistle of the lifeguard doing a routine check. We found a spot near the shallow end. Mia's excitement was the best part of the day. She splashed in the shallow water with her feet and held my hand and laughed when the small ripples from passing adults reached her knees. We bought ice cream from the kiosk near the entrance at around 1:30, a 99 with flakes because Mia insisted. And we sat in the pool chairs and ate them in the sunshine, and for a while, everything felt exactly like what it was supposed to feel like. My parents were relaxed. My father had his phone out taking photographs. Vanessa was in good spirits, playing with Mia in the shallow water, spinning her in small circles while Mia shrieked with delight. I sat in my chair and watched my family, and I felt, for a brief window, that everything was okay. Then I remembered the sunscreen. Dina had left it in the outside pocket of my pool bag in the changing room. Mia had been in the sun for almost an hour and her shoulders were flushing pink. I needed it. I stood up. I said to Vanessa, who was standing at the pool edge beside Mia, "I'm just going to grab the sunscreen. Can you watch Mia at the shallow end? Don't let her go near the deep end." I said those exact words. Don't let her go near the deep end. Vanessa looked at me and said, "Yeah, obviously." She sounded mildly impatient, and the way she sounded when she felt she was being given unnecessary instructions. I walked to the changing room. I found the sunscreen. I checked the pocket twice because my hands were moving quickly, and I wanted to be certain. I walked back. 4 minutes, maybe less. I came out of the changing room and I walked toward the shallow end and I looked for the yellow swimsuit with the small frill. I couldn't find it. I looked again, scanning face to face, swimsuit to swimsuit. Nothing. I looked at Vanessa. She was standing at the pool edge facing the deep end. I looked where she was looking. The air in my lungs went somewhere. The noise of the pool went distant. I saw Mia's arms first, hitting the surface of the deep water in the small, desperate pattern of a child who is terrified and tiring. Her head went under. It came back up. It went under again. I ran. My sandals went somewhere. The tile was hot and then wet, and then I was at the edge and I was in the water and the cold hit me completely and none of it mattered. I was moving toward her. I got my arm under her. I pulled. I got her up, and she was coughing, and I moved us both to the edge, and I lifted her out and climbed out after her, and I held her against my chest, and she was coughing so hard her whole body shook. I said her name. I said I was there. And I said it over and over until the coughing began to slow, and her grip on my arm went from desperate to just tight. The lifeguard arrived at a run. He was breathing hard. He had been at the far end of the pool. He asked if she was okay. I said she swallowed water, but she's breathing. He crouched down. He assessed her with the practiced efficiency of someone trained for exactly this. He said she seemed okay, but we should have her checked medically if the coughing continued, or if she showed any signs of distress later. I said thank you. He stood and stepped back. And then I looked up. Vanessa was standing 3 feet from me. She was calm. That is the word I keep coming back to. She was calm. Not relieved, because relief requires that you were frightened first. Learn to swim. I was right there the whole time. 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 I was right there the whole learn to swim. I was right there the whole time. My father was in his chair. His phone was still partially raised, aimed roughly toward the area of the pool where Vanessa had been standing. He had been filming her. He looked at Mia, who was still coughing slightly against my shoulder. He said, "She's all right." Wrapped it around Mia, and I looked at the wrapped it around Mia, and I looked at the 3 of them, and I felt something settle in me with the finality of a door being locked from the inside. Not anger. Something colder and more permanent than anger. Understanding. They had all been watching. My father with his phone, Vanessa at the pool edge, my mother in her chair. They had watched my daughter go from the shallow end to the deep end. They had watched her struggle, and not one of them had moved. In the days after the pool, I did not call my family. I did not send a message. I focused on Mia, who was physically unharmed but was quieter than usual for several days, clinging more than usual, sleeping with her bedroom light on. I held her. I answered her questions honestly but calmly. Yes, I told her she was safe, and that I had her, and that nothing like that would happen again. I also began to work. I'm a project manager. When something significant happens, my instinct is to document it, organize it, and understand it completely before I take any action. I sat at my kitchen table on the evening of the pool day after Mia was asleep, and I wrote down the entire sequence of events: times, positions, dialogue, sequence. I wrote it in precise language, and I dated it, and I saved it. I then contacted the community pool and requested a copy of the incident report filed by the lifeguard. I explained that I was the child's mother and that I wanted the official record for my own files. They sent it within 2 days. It confirmed what I already knew. A child was observed in distress in the deep end of the pool and was removed from the water by an adult family member. The adult family member was me. The time was noted. The lifeguard's name was noted. The report existed, and it was factual and formal, and it could not be revised by anyone's memory. I also thought about my father's phone. He had been filming when I arrived. I sent him a casual message 2 days later asking if he had taken any nice photos during the outing. He replied with several images: Mia at the shallow end from earlier in the afternoon, the three of them at the ice cream kiosk, a shot of the pool from a distance. None of the images were from the window of the incident, but the metadata on the files he sent showed timestamps. He had been filming during the period when Mia was in the water. I sat with that for a long time. I made 3 decisions. The first was immediate. I would not leave Mia in an unsupervised situation with Vanessa or with my parents until something had fundamentally changed. That was a protective decision, not a punitive one. The second decision was harder. I would stop all financial transfers to my family. £14,000 across 5 years, and my daughter had been left to go under in a pool while they watched. The third decision I would act on in 3 weeks, at my parents' annual summer dinner. Simone and I had been friends since our second year of university, 12 years ago. She was now a family law paralegal, which meant she understood the architecture of difficult family situations in both a personal and professional sense. She had watched me navigate my family dynamics across more than a decade. She knew the pattern without needing the full briefing. I called her the evening after I received the incident report. I told her everything. She listened the way she always listened, completely, without filling the space with reactions. When I finished, she asked 2 questions. Is Mia physically okay? I said yes. Do you have documentation? I said yes. She was quiet for a moment. Then she said, Good. Simone helped me think through the summer dinner. Not by telling me what to do, by asking what I needed the outcome to be. When I said I needed the people in that room to have accurate information about my family, she understood immediately. She also pointed out something I had not quite articulated to myself, that the people who would be at that dinner, the aunts and uncles and family friends and neighbors who had known my parents for decades, all held a specific picture of our family. They believed my parents were devoted grandparents and that our family was close and balanced. That picture was built on incomplete information, and incomplete information tends to protect the people it flatters. She also said something I've thought about many times since. She said, "The truth doesn't need to be dramatic to be significant. It just needs to be said clearly, in the right room." I spent 2 weeks preparing, not writing a speech. Just knowing what I was going to say and in what order and with what evidence available, if anyone asked questions. I was a project manager. I knew how to prepare for a presentation. This was a presentation. The most important one I would ever give. The summer dinner was on a Saturday evening at my parents' home. A garden event, the kind my mother organized each year with genuine care and genuine warmth. Fairy lights strung from the fence, a long table with good food, 20 people who had known the family for varying lengths of time. The evening smelled of cut grass and barbecue and the particular sweetness of a warm English summer evening that makes everything feel, temporarily, uncomplicated. Mia was there. She was fully recovered, back to herself, playing with a cousin's child near the garden fence. Her yellow swimsuit had been through the wash twice since the pool. She was fine. I held that fact close all evening. The gathering moved through its stages: food, conversation, stories told in the overlapping way of people who have known each other long enough to finish each other's anecdotes. My mother was in her element. She moved through the garden with warm efficiency, making sure people had what they needed, connecting conversations across the table. At some point in the middle of the evening, the table had settled into a comfortable lull. My mother was speaking to a small group of guests near the end of the table. She said, with genuine feeling, that family was everything. She said she was so grateful that her girls were so close, that they had always been close, that this was something she was truly proud of. She believed every word of it. I waited until the small group had heard her. Then I said, "I'm glad you mentioned that, actually. I have something I'd like to share. And because several people here know Mia and I think they deserve the full picture." The table quieted. Not all at once, in the way a table quiets when someone speaks with a particular quality of intention. I described the pool. I described it in the same factual, sequential language I had written in my notes 2 weeks earlier. Where I was, how long I was gone, where I found Mia, what I did, what was said afterward. I mentioned that I had the lifeguard's incident report if anyone had questions. I mentioned that my father had been filming during the window when Mia was in the water, and that the timestamps on the files he sent me confirm this. I did not raise my voice. I did not cry. I did not express the emotion I was carrying, because the emotion was mine and it was not what this moment was for. This moment was for information. Then I said, equally calmly, that for the past 5 years I had been providing financial support to my family in the approximate total of £14,000. I said that this was not something the people in this garden had known, and that the image of our family as self-sufficient and balanced was one I had helped maintain through my silence. I said I was not asking for anything. I was not presenting an invoice. I was simply making the truth available to the people who had been told a different version of it. When I sat down, I reached over and took Mia's hand where she was sitting beside me, having come back to the table without my noticing. She looked up at me and then went back to eating. The garden was quiet in the specific way of 20 people processing the same information at the same moment. My mother's face was very still. Vanessa was looking at the table with an expression I couldn't fully read. My father stood up, a reflexive movement, and then sat back down. Two of my aunts exchanged a look. The neighbor who had known my family for 11 years was looking at her hands. Nobody spoke for several seconds. Then the garden slowly resumed, in the careful, slightly altered way of a space that has been permanently changed by something that has just been said in it. The days that followed were not clean. I did not expect them to be. Vanessa's message arrived on Tuesday, 3 days after the dinner. Nay said that accidents happen, and that I was said that accidents happen, and that I was treating a few seconds of poor judgment as though it were something deliberate and calculated. It said I was punishing everyone. I read it once. I put my phone face down on the kitchen counter. I did not reply. My mother called on Wednesday morning. She was crying. She said she didn't know I felt this way. She said she had no idea about the money. She said I should have said something to her privately instead of doing what I did in the garden. She said she felt humiliated. I listened to all of it. Then I said, "I'm saying something now, Mom." There was a pause. She said she didn't know what to do with that. I said I understood. I said I wasn't ready for a full conversation yet, but that I would be, and that when I was, I hoped she would be honest with me. Ian could meet and talk properly. I said yes. Could meet and talk properly. I said yes, but not yet. I said I needed a little more time. She said she understood. My father called once. He spoke carefully, in the way of a man choosing his words because he is uncertain of his footing. He did not address the pool directly. He did not say what I think we both knew needed to be said, but he said he knew things could have been handled better. It was imprecise. It was the least he could have said. But it was also the most direct acknowledgement I had ever received from him about anything in our family's dynamic, and I held that for what it was. 2 family friends contacted me privately in the week after the dinner. One, a woman who had known my parents for 14 years, said she had always sensed an imbalance in how the family spoke about me compared to Vanessa, and that she was glad I had said something. She said she regretted not saying something herself, sooner. The other sent a shorter message that said simply that she was sorry I had been carrying so much alone for so long. I did not redirect the financial transfers with an announcement. I simply stopped sending them. I opened a savings account in Mia's name, and I transferred, on the 1st of the following month, the amount I would have sent to my family. I watched the balance in that account begin. It was a small number. It was entirely hers. The power that shifted during those weeks was not power over my family. I did not want that. What shifted was the room's understanding of what was true. The comfortable picture, the one that described my family as close, and my parents as devoted and everything as balanced and warm. It had been replaced by a more complicated and more honest one, and the people who had believed the comfortable picture without question were now in possession of something more accurate. You cannot unhear the truth once it has been said clearly in a room full of people who matter. That is its own form of permanence. I want to speak to you directly for a moment. If you have ever been the capable one, the easy one, the one no one worries about, while quietly carrying things that no one around you acknowledged or even fully saw, I want you to know that your experience is real and it is significant, and you are not being oversensitive. Leave a comment if any part of this story has touched something true in your own life. I read them. 6 weeks after the summer dinner, I began seeing a therapist. Not because I was in crisis. I want to be clear about that. So because I had spent 34 years managing things alone, and I had decided that managing alone was not the same as being well, and that I deserved the same quality of attention I had always given to everything else. In those sessions, I worked through things I had been carrying since the payphone at 15. The specific equation my childhood had built, that being capable meant being unimportant. That love was something you earned through usefulness rather than received through simply being present, that needing things was a burden to be minimized. These were not dramatic revelations. They were quiet recognitions, arrived at slowly, with help. I reflected on the 14,000 pounds. I want to be honest here. I don't regret all of it. Some of it went to genuine need from people I genuinely loved. But I gave it inside a system that did not see me clearly. And that system extended to an afternoon at a pool when my daughter needed someone to move, and no one moved. Mia enrolled in swimming lessons 2 weeks after the pool incident. She was nervous at first, which was entirely understandable. The instructor was patient and experienced, and introduced the water slowly, in stages, until Mia's relationship with it shifted from fear to curiosity. By the 6th lesson, she was jumping in from the side. By the 10th, she was doing her first full length of the learner pool. She came home from that lesson and announced her achievement at dinner with the specific, satisfied authority of a child who has conquered something real. She is not afraid of the water. She swims now, proudly and loudly and with complete confidence in her own body's ability to stay above the surface. That matters to me more than I can say. My relationship with my parents continues. My mother is trying. I can see it in small ways. She calls to ask how I am before she mentions anything else, which is new, and she asks about Mia with a specific attention she didn't always show before. My father is quieter when Mia is present, more careful, more watchful of her. I notice these things. I do not grade the effort or perform gratitude for it. I simply watch the behavior and respond to what I see, which is what I will do from here forward. Vanessa and I have not spoken since her message. And I have not replied, and she has not sent another. I'm not waiting for an apology, but I am not closed. If she chooses to be honest about what happened at the pool, I will be there for that conversation. What I will not do is pretend the pool didn't happen in order to restore a version of our relationship that was built on my silence. On a Saturday morning in September, 2 months after the summer dinner, I drove Mia to the same community pool where the incident had happened. I had chosen it deliberately. I wanted both of us to be there on different terms in a moment I controlled, with a different ending. I sat in a chair at the side of the pool, in the spectator area, while Mia had her lesson in the shallow end with her instructor. The pool smelled the same: chlorine and warm tiles, and the particular echo of voices in a large wet space. The sounds were the same, but everything else was different. I watched Mia push off from the wall. I watched her stroke through the water with the focused, slightly serious expression she got when she was working at something. I called encouragement from the side, and she glanced over with a grin and then looked back at the water. She reached the far end. She paused. She pushed off the wall and came back. She climbed out and ran to me, dripping, her hair flat against her face, her grin enormous. I held her. I looked over her shoulder at the water. When I spent years being the one who held everything together so quietly that no one noticed I was holding it. Then I almost lost the most important thing I was carrying. And I understood finally that quiet strength is only worth something when it is also allowed to speak.